Discover the incredible secret skill of a CEO's son who helped a dying father a life-changing journey. Jake stood at the old community center in trance, fingers trembling as he gripped the knob. Inside, the echoes of laughter and warmth from childhood memories lingered like phantom whispers. He could almost see the joyous chaos of birthday parties and summer camps that once thrived here, now replaced by dust and decay. Lost in the shadows of his powerful father's legacy, Jake felt like a ghost haunting the very halls that had once pulsed with life. His father's terminal illness weighed heavily on him like a leaden shroud, draped over the expectations of a son who was supposed to inherit leadership like a crown. The news of his father's illness had shattered him, cracking open the door to regret. They had spent years drifting apart, the chasm widening with every missed opportunity to connect. It had been easy to focus on the next business deal, the next big event. But without his father's indomitable presence, Jake felt untethered, lost in a life imposed on him by others. The pressure of high society loomed ominously above, suffocating him in its demands. Then he found the abandoned community center, a place his mother had once taken him to play. Surrounded by a group of veterans and local artisans, he discovered what it meant to live authentically. Their joy was infectious, they cracked jokes and told stories of resilience. In their presence, Jake felt a flicker of hope. Inspired, he picked up tools and began to carve. Wood became his canvas. Tiny toys came to life in his hands, each piece a testament to his hidden passion. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As he prepared for a community project to revitalize the center, an idea blossomed. He could finally bond with his father over something meaningful. But pride and suspicion stirred among the townsfolk. They were skeptical. Could the son of a CEO understand their struggles, their pain? Each sneer felt like a punch, each raised eyebrow a challenge. When someone sabotaged his efforts, it stung deeper than he could bear. Jake had to prove himself, not just as a craftsman, but as a son trying to mend the fractures in his life and family. Each carving grew more intricate, intertwining the memories of joy and sadness, hope and despair. His journey collided with reality as confrontation loomed. The tension thickened in the air. How could he reconcile the love for his father with the expectations placed on him? As he stood before the assembly, heart pounding and hands sweating, he had a choice to make. Would he shatter the chains of expectation, or would he let them bind him forever? With his father's legacy hanging over him like a dark cloud, Jake knew that whatever he chose, the truth would ultimately lead him either toward redemption or further despair. As he took a deep breath, ready to speak, one thought rang clear: can love and authenticity triumph over the weight of the past? Jake's breath hitched in his throat as he faced the crowd, a sea of familiar yet distant faces that had once cheered him on as a child but now seemed to scrutinize him like an intruder. Their eyes weighed heavy with skepticism, and for a moment, he considered backing away, slipping back into the shadows. But the memory of his father's frail frame flashed through his mind. The man who had once towered over him, filled with strength and wisdom, now depended on him more than ever. "I am here to help," he started, his voice shaking as it broke the silence. He squared his shoulders, fighting the urge to retreat. "I know you don't know me, and I understand the doubts you have. But this place, it means a lot to me." A grumbling arose from the audience, voices low and filled with suspicion. "What does he know about our lives?" someone muttered. The words sliced through Jake, but he pressed on, fueled by a sense of urgency. "I want to work with you together. To breathe life into this center again," he declared, attempting to ignite sparks of hope. "If we can join forces, I know we can create something that honors everyone's story, my father's, and all of yours too." A heavy silence followed, each second feeling like an eternity. He saw some shoulders stiffen, arms crossing defensively. Doubt hung thick in the air, but there was also curiosity. Someone in the back shifted, whispering amongst their neighbors, the murmurs bouncing like echoes. It was the town's oldest resident, Mrs. Henderson, who finally spoke up. "You think bringing new things here will solve old problems? This is more than wood and nails. Can you really understand what we've been through?" It was a fair question, one that burned through Jake's heart. He swallowed hard, thoughts racing through his mind. How could he possibly convey the intensity of his love for his father and the regret of lost time? "I can't pretend to know your struggles completely, but I can promise you this: I want to learn," he replied, sincerity lacing each word. "And I want to carve out a path toward healing, for my father, for you, and for all of us." Chuckles rippled through the crowd, but the laughter was less about mockery and more about surprise. Perhaps they hadn't expected this CEO's son to expose his vulnerability. Jake sensed the shift in the atmosphere, a faint thawing of the initial suspicion. Then, he saw a hand raise. It was Ben, an old war veteran known for his gruff demeanor, the kind of guy who had little time for pretty speeches. "All right kid, we'll give you a shot. But show us something real." Relief washed over him, but Jake knew it was just the beginning. "Thank you," he said, his voice gaining strength. "I won't let you down." Leaving the community center that day, he felt lighter, a weight lifted. His heart thudded with hope and determination. Yet beyond that hope loomed the shadow of his father's condition. How much time did they truly have left? With the project unfolding, time felt increasingly like a ticking clock urging him toward more than just a shared workshop. As the sun dipped low, casting a warm glow across the town, Jake made a vow to himself: he would capture the beauty of the community through his crafts, honoring their stories while also trying to bring his father back into his life, closer than they'd ever been before. But as the challenges began to unfold, the question lingered, bold and unrelenting: could he truly mend the gaps not just in the center, but also within his heart, and would it be enough before it was too late? Jake woke to an overcast sky, a reminder of his unease from the previous day. He still felt the weight of the community's skepticism resting on his shoulders as he prepared to take on the first project at the center. He pushed himself to remember the flicker of acceptance he had sensed. Ben's words echoed in his mind, "But show us something real." With a newfound determination, he gathered his tools and materials, hopeful that today would mark the beginning of something meaningful. As he approached the center, the shadows of old memories faded, replaced by the urgency of what lay ahead. The doors creaked open as he stepped inside, revealing the wooden floors that needed polishing and the walls that hung with stories yearning to be told. He inhaled the scent of aged wood and dust. It made him nostalgic and anxious all at once. The place had life in it, history embedded in every crack. "Okay, let us do this," he murmured to himself. He spent the morning cleaning, sanding, and rearranging the space. Each scrape of wood, each stroke of paint lifted his spirits. He started to hum a tune, a light melody that kept him focused. But just as he felt the rhythm of creativity flowing, old anxieties crept back in. What if they didn't show? What if no one believed in his vision? Just then, the familiar sound of laughter bubbled from outside, drawing his attention. He paused, wiping his brow and peeking through the large windows. One by one, people began to trickle in, drawn to the center by curiosity or perhaps the hope of something revitalizing happening. As Ben entered, he gave Jake a hearty clap on the back that almost knocked him forward. "You ready to make some magic happen?" Jake beamed at the old veteran, his heart racing with excitement. "Let us get started." They formed a small team: Ben, a couple of moms who brought their kids, and even Mrs. Henderson, who came prepared with family recipes. They set about stringing decorations together, combining their skills and laughter, raising the energy in the room. Before long, they transformed a dull corner into a vibrant space filled with crafts, pictures, and stories from everyone's life in the town. As they worked, Jake found himself listening to tales of resilience, loss, and joy. These stories intertwined, creating a tapestry of shared experiences. He cherished each moment, feeling more connected to them than ever. In the midst of painting a mural that showcased the community's unity, he caught sight of his father's framed photograph resting against a nearby wall. It was a reminder of the very reason he had returned. Whoever this new Jake was, he wanted to pull his father back into this world of connection, to let him feel the warmth of a community that cared. Just as they stepped back to admire their work, a little girl pointed at a bright sun that Jake had painted at the heart of the mural. "That's my favorite part," she exclaimed, eyes shining with admiration. A knot of emotion swelled in Jake's throat. "Thank you. It's for all of us," he replied, knowing deep down this was just the start of their journey. But as they shared a moment of joy and reflected on what they'd accomplished, Jake couldn't shake the question lingering in his heart: was this enough to bring his father back into the light of his world, or was the time they had left ticking faster than he realized? The sun began to break through the clouds, casting a warm glow on their newly painted mural. Jake felt a wave of hope wash over him. It started with a simple project, but it had become something so much greater. It was life, tangible and colorful, and he could feel the pulse of the community around him. As Ben gathered the group to discuss their next steps, Jake's focus shifted to the faces around him. The laughter, the joy, it was infectious. But beneath it all was a lingering doubt, gnawing at him. Could he truly be the anchor his father needed? He leaned against the wall, letting the moment settle before he approached the group, participating once more in the lively banter. "Next Saturday," Ben proposed, "we can have a gathering to show off our hard work. We'll have food, music, stories, everything. People can come together, share, and celebrate this space." Jake grinned broadly at the idea, but a sliver of worry pierced his excitement. What if they weren't ready? He thought he saw hesitation briefly flit across Ben's face, but it was gone as quickly as it came. The others agreed with cheerful nods, their faces lighting up with anticipation. "Let us do it," one mother chimed, wiping her hands on her apron, adrenaline pumping through her. They dove into planning, and Jake felt the spark of unity ignite stronger than ever. They brainstormed music choices, food items, and their perfect story-sharing theme, Moments of Light. It captured everything they were striving for, a testament to hope and resilience. Hours passed, and soon the sun dipped low, throwing vibrant colors across the once dim center. Just as Jake began to pack up his things, he heard a soft voice behind him. "Are you really staying?" It was the little girl, her small stature framed in the doorway, a glimmer of curiosity in her eyes. Jake straightened and turned, leaning on his tools. "I am. I need to help fix up this place." "Why?" she asked, tilting her head, honestly wanting to know. For a split second, Jake felt exposed. The quiet weight of his worries hung in the air. "Because," he paused, searching for the right words, "I want to bring light back to it. And to my family." Her innocent gaze softened his heart. "They'll come if you build it," she said simply. He couldn't help but smile, a flicker of warmth igniting in him. "You really think so?" "Yeah. Like magic." She beamed, running off as if her words would bring adult reassurance. Jake stood alone for a moment, absorbing her words. There was magic in the way they had all come together today, magic he hoped would extend to his father too. But as much as he wished it, something deep inside him echoed doubts. Could they truly bring back the light in someone so lost? It was then that the old photograph caught his eye again. It sat there, catching the last rays of sunlight, a silent reminder of the man who once was. Would his father feel that same warmth again? Suddenly, he heard voices outside, more community members arriving. They were drawn by the promise of togetherness, and Jake felt his heart race once more. He stepped outside as the chatter grew louder. People greeted each other with genuine smiles, kids ran around chasing one another, laughter filled the air. The sight was a poignant reminder that community was a tapestry woven from each person's stories, but just as the excitement seemed to swell, the uneasy feeling returned. If this gathering was to succeed, Jake would need to find the courage to invite his father into this world, the world where they both belonged. With determination, Jake scanned the crowd. Would he finally reach out, risking his heart in hopes of reigniting the bond they once shared? What invitation would bring his father back home? The question loomed larger as the night wore on, the community finding warmth in the gathering, while Jake stood on the edge, confronting his own uncharted territory. With the future unclear, he took a breath, drawn closer to the moment he'd been waiting for. The night grew deeper, and the laughter echoed more brightly against the backdrop of twinkling stars overhead. Jake watched the joy unfold around him, a world alive with hope. He felt like a ghost lingering by the shadows, both in awe and afraid. The children leaped and danced, their innocence a balm against the weight he carried. Jake's eyes fell on a small group gathered by the mural, their faces lit by the warm glow of string lights swaying gently in the evening breeze. They were sharing stories, memories of how things used to be before the community center fell into disrepair. Each tale was a tribute, a lifeline, and he longed to be part of it. But the picture of his father lingered in his mind, dwelling alone in his grief. What would it take to draw him into this world? To make him see that it wasn't just a place to recollect the past but a space to reignite possibilities? His heart raced with resolve. He needed to act. "Excuse me," Jake said, interrupting the laughter of a few neighbors. "Watch this for a second." With an impromptu flourish, he grabbed a can of paint he'd accidentally left nearby and gleefully began adding small accents to the mural. The light colors splashed against the vibrant reds and yellows, each stroke a burst of encouragement, a plea for new beginnings. The crowd turned to watch him with curious eyes. "What are you doing?" a woman asked, tilting her head in confusion. "Just adding some magic," he responded, fighting back the tears that threatened his vision. "We all need a bit of that, right?" At first, she laughed, and soon the others joined in, filling the air with playful shouts of, "We could use more magic." The atmosphere shifted, and suddenly everyone seemed to have tools in hand, ready to contribute. People returned to their paint pots, and laughter mingled with music. The night transformed into an impromptu festival of art and hope, yet, amidst the joy, the still nagging doubt clung to Jake: would this truly bring his father back? The short bursts of laughter masked the quiet fear in his heart that he might be reaching too high, yet he couldn't let that fear hinder him now. Suddenly, the sight of an old man shuffling toward him snapped his thoughts in a new direction. Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was Mr. Thompson, an elderly neighbor who used to share gardening tips with Jake's dad. Would he remember the way they used to work together, the laughter and shared stories? "Jake, my boy," the old man smiled, and Jake felt warmth radiating from him despite the years. "Your mural, it shines." "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," Jake responded, his voice rising above the bubbling excitement. "You know, your father used to bring me the finest tomatoes from that garden of his," he said, nostalgia heavy in his words. "We'd sit and talk long hours. He loved sharing stories." Jake's heart thudded. A memory sparked in his mind, a flicker of the warmth he craved for his father. "Do you think he would come back if I invited him?" Mr. Thompson nodded sagely. "It's worth a try, son. Sometimes it just takes one gesture to rekindle hope." Encouraged, Jake's mind raced. That was it. An invitation could weave through the doubts and draw his dad out from the shadows. Jake could almost see the way each detail of the gathering could act as a bridge, bringing his father closer. As Jake turned back to the crowd, the excitement surged through him again, but this time it felt different, more purposeful. He needed that connection, to not just serve as a helper but as a son yearning for his father's presence again. But just as he gathered his thoughts, his phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling him back from the enthusiasm surrounding him. His heart sank as he glanced at the screen. It was a message from his father. The last thing Jake expected. "Where are you, Jake? I need to talk." A rush of emotions flooded through him. Was this the moment he had been waiting for, the sign that perhaps his father was ready to step into the light? Jake took a deep breath and then, with resolve, began to step away from the merriment. "I'll be back soon," he murmured to Mr. Thompson, who simply nodded, knowing this journey was pivotal for Jake. Caught between hope and fear, Jake made his way toward the exit, the weight of the world on his shoulders but his heart beating with newfound determination. What awaited him on the other side of that message? Would it be the first step back to connection, or would it lead to a deeper rift? The answer was just a short walk away, and Jake could feel the uncertainty lingering like a shadow. As Jake stepped out into the cool night air, the laughter behind him faded, replaced by a heavy silence that felt almost tangible. He could still hear the echoes of joy from the party, a world of colors and hope, yet his heart was anchored to the message on his phone screen. Each step toward home felt like a crossing of a threshold into uncertainty, into the unknown. The street lamps cast a soft glow, and the familiar path felt foreign. Memories of running this route with his father flooded his mind, times when they shared stories about life over evening walks. How many conversations had started with simple questions, only to lead them deeper into laughter and understanding. Jake reached their house, his heart in a tight knot. The door was slightly ajar, and as he pushed it open, the hinges creaked like a ghostly whisper. Stepping inside, he found his father sitting in the dim light, the shadows stretching across the room, an abstract painting of loss and solitude. "Dad?" Jake called softly, taking cautious steps forward. His father looked up, surprise flickering in his tired eyes. "Jake." The tone was flat, but the name hung in the air with unspoken weight. "I got your message." Jake's voice trembled slightly. I thought we could talk." "About what?" His father's response was curt, defensively laced. The remnants of his grief were palpable, almost oppressive. Jake's heart raced, the hope he had for a rekindled connection wavered like the flickering light overhead. "About us," he said, feeling the gravity of his words. "About what we used to have." His father shifted slightly in his seat, the worn fabric of the old chair groaning under the weight of memories. Each crease in his face told a story of pain, of what they had lost together. "What is there to talk about?" "Everything, Dad." "I mean, think about it," Jake pleaded, feeling the frustration bubble just beneath the surface. "While I was out there with the community, I realized how much I miss you. I miss us." Silence fell like a thick curtain between them. Jake's mind begged for words, for connection. But all he saw was the deep sorrow etched across his father's face. "It's not that simple," his father finally said, his voice quiet, like a caged bird. "Why?" The question flew out, raw and desperate. "Why can't we try?" "I'm trying." Jake fought to keep the panic at bay, searching for any flicker of recognition in his dad's eyes. "I'm planning something special at the community center. I want you to come. Please." His father looked away, staring out the window into the darkness beyond. "I'm not ready," he whispered, almost as if reining in the cracks of vulnerability that threatened to spill. The admission hung in the air like a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters. Jake stepped closer, heart pounding. "But it doesn't have to be perfect. We can start small," he said, urgency clawing at him. "We can start with paint, or a memory. Just please come and see the mural." The weight of the moment pressed against him, and for a moment, Jake thought he saw a flicker in his father's eyes. A hint of the warmth they once shared, pieces of sunlight breaking through the clouds, but then, realization dimmed that glimmer. "What if I can't?" his father asked, defeat creeping into his voice. The question struck a nerve of fear that had haunted Jake. "Then we keep trying until you do," he replied firmly. "I won't give up on you." His father's expression contorted, the battle between hope and despair writ large across his face. Jake took a breath, their shared silence now a chasm of vulnerability. "Just think about it, okay?" Jake urged, his voice steadier now. "I'll be there waiting for you." As he turned to leave the room, he felt the weight of uncertainty still lingering, but also an ember of hope igniting within. Would his father step through that threshold, too? The night outside felt colder now, but Jake's heart had ignited with purpose. He needed to believe. What came next would either be the start of something new or reinforce the silence that had consumed so much. The question lingered in the air, thick with tension: could his father reconcile with the past? Or would fear continue to keep them apart? As Jake stepped back outside, a chill danced down his spine. He knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead. Jake walked back into the night, his breath visible in the chilly air. The streetlights glowed warmly, casting a surreal light on everything they touched. He could almost hear his father's voice, the disappointment layered beneath it, echoing endlessly in his mind. Each step felt heavier, like he was carrying two hearts: his own, filled with hope, and his father's, weighed down by sorrow. Driving home, the familiar route brought memories that twisted at his heart. Driving the same way with his dad, always singing off-key, laughter bubbling out of them. How could they have let all that slip away? The pavement stretched out like a reminder of the distance between them. Jake clenched the steering wheel, frustration bubbling again. How could his father not see what was right in front of him? It felt so clear. The community center mural was a beacon, a chance to heal, to bridge the chasm created by grief. But could it really be enough? He parked in front of his old house, the place where laughter had danced through the halls like summer light. It seemed smaller now, heavy with memories that clung to the walls, whispering secrets of happier days. Taking a deep breath, Jake climbed out of the car and made his way inside. The air was thick with silence, wrapping around him like a shroud. The familiar creak of the floorboards sounded louder than ever. He could hear the soft ticking of the clock, each sound a reminder of time slipping away. As Jake stepped into the living room, he saw the empty spaces where they once created memories. The old photo albums lay untouched on the shelf, collecting dust, their stories bound in faded ink. That he made his way to the kitchen, hoping a cup of tea might clear his head. The kettle whistled softly, and as the steam curled upward, so did his thoughts. He remembered how they had made tea together, enjoying late nights with deep conversations over simple cups. Just the thought of it brought a smile to his face and a pang of longing to his heart. Jake poured the hot water over the tea bag, watching it steep as he had so many times before. A small flicker of determination ignited in his chest. He couldn't let go of this hope. Grabbing a piece of paper, he began jotting down ideas for the mural, imagining every stroke of paint as a shared moment, a way to share his heart with his father. Suddenly, he paused. The quiet of the house closed in around him. Without his father, everything felt hollow, like trying to fill a void that wouldn't be filled. As he stood there, the door creaked open slightly, and he turned. His father stood silhouetted in the doorway, looking so small against the tall frame. "Jake," he said softly, voice slightly breaking. "I've been thinking." The weight of those words hung heavily in the air, a sweet promise laced with uncertainty. Jake held his breath, anticipation wrapping around him tightly. "About the mural?" he pressed, hope flaring in his heart like a match striking. His father stepped further into the light, uncertainty dancing in his eyes. "Maybe I could help." In that moment, Jake's heart soared. Could this be the beginning of rebuilding their bridge? Would they finally take that first step toward healing together, facing the past instead of running from it? They stood together in the fading light of the kitchen, the next chapter waiting to be written. Jake took a deep breath, wondering if this was the light that would guide them both back home. What if the mural was just the beginning of something new and beautiful? Would they be brave enough to step into the colors of life again? Jake's heart raced at his father's tentative offer. He could hardly believe it. Was this truly happening? The shadows that had lingered between them felt a little less intimidating. His father, standing there with his hands shoved deep into his pockets, looked so vulnerable. "Really? You would want to help?" Jake asked, his voice breaking slightly under the weight of his emotions. His father's face softened, the crinkled lines around his eyes deepening as he nodded. I think it might be time for us to try. For both of us." There was a quiet urgency in the air, electricity buzzing among the multitude of unspoken days since they'd last laughed together. "Great! I have so many ideas," Jake said, excitement bubbling forth. He grabbed the paper from the counter, scattering his notes a bit as he waved it in the air. We could paint a big sunrise, something that symbolizes hope, a new beginning. And maybe slow down, son. His father chuckled, the sound rich and warm, like the smell of fresh bread baking. The mere sound of it made Jake's heart swell. Why don't we sit down and talk this through? No rush, all right. Setting aside his notes, the two of them moved to the worn dining table, the same one they had celebrated birthdays around, where late-night conversations had spilled into laughter. Every little detail of the room hummed with memories. The smell of burnt toast still clung to the air from a breakfast disaster years ago. They were still in the same space, but Jake felt like everything had changed. His father leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Jake, I want you to know I haven't really understood what you've been doing these days. Your art, the mural, all this time, I thought I'd lost my son to his grief. Jake opened his mouth to protest but stopped. He could sense the raw honesty behind his father's words. I thought you just didn't care, Jake admitted, his voice trembling. It felt like every time I put brush to canvas, it only pushed us further apart. His father sighed, a mix of regret and realization washing over his features. I do care. I've just been so lost myself. Since he hesitated, the memory of loss looming large between them. Since we lost Mom. The room went quiet, the weight of that silent grief driving a wedge and a bridge all at once. Jake didn't want to dwell on the sadness but felt it was essential to acknowledge. Maybe we can paint that too, he suggested quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Our loss, our love, as layers in the mural. His father nodded slowly, tears glimmering in his eyes. I want to remember her, Jake. I want to channel that into something we can create together. For the first time in a long while, a wave of calm began to settle over Jake. The idea of painting together felt more significant than just color and canvas. It was about connection, unearthing memories cloaked in sorrow and transforming them into something beautiful. Let us make it a tribute, Jake proposed. To everything she was. To both of us. The corners of his father's mouth lifted into a tentative smile, mirroring the light in Jake's heart. Yeah, a tribute. They smiled at each other, and for the first time, their eyes didn't shy away from the pain. Instead, there was a warmth shared between them, a glimmer of hope flickering to life. As they began to sketch out ideas, Jake felt a stirring in his chest, a sense of purpose larger than either of them. Together, they would rediscover what it meant to be a family again. But as they gathered their supplies, plans bubbling over in excitement, an unsettling thought crept in. What if unearthing old memories brought back more than just love? What if the act of healing turned them into something they couldn't handle? Jake shook his head, dispelling the thought. They had come this far, hadn't they? Let us do this, Jake said firmly, determination solid in his chest. Yet, as they stood together, brushes poised to dip into emotion, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real work was only just beginning. What were they truly ready to face as they began to layer their past onto that canvas? Jake took a breath, feeling the air shift as his father grabbed a couple of old paintbrushes from the drawer. They were frayed, the bristles worn down from years of use. The sight pulled at a memory of his childhood, afternoons spent splashing paint across canvases and each other. The echoes of laughter danced in his thoughts, weaving seamlessly with the quiet sadness between them now. Don't worry, I'll teach you the ropes again, Jake said, trying to lighten the atmosphere. His father chuckled, his voice a mixture of nervousness and curiosity. I'm more of a woodwork kind of guy. You know, careful with a hammer, but with paint. I'm a little lost. It's just like building, Jake replied, leaning forward, enthusiasm brightening his tone. We'll layer our memories like we layer paint. It doesn't have to be perfect. His father paused, then nodded, and Jake felt a moment of genuine connection bloom between them. They were stepping into something new together, rekindling a bond they thought had withered. As they spread sheets of canvas across the table, Jake's heart raced again, not out of fear, but from anticipation. So many thoughts raced through his mind, vibrant images of what the mural could become flickering before him. He wanted it to be grand, yet intimate. Hopeful, yet honest about their shared pain. "What colors are you thinking?" his father asked, a hint of a smile now playing at the corners of his lips. "All the colors. The bright oranges and yellows for the sunrise, then some blues and purples as shadows, those will represent what we've lost," Jake said, his excitement palpable. His father's brow furrowed, but Jake saw a spark in his eyes. "And green? For growth." "Exactly," Jake exclaimed, feeling as though they were building an army of emotions together. "Green for moving forward. Maybe some gentle pastels mixed in there. Like the memories we cherish." Hours drifted by as they laid the groundwork for what would soon become a visual tapestry of heartache, healing, and hope. The room filled with chatter as they shared thoughts and memories about Mom, the laughter mixing with tears, each drop staining the canvas of their conversation. Each brushstroke felt cathartic and alive, tapping into years of suppressed emotions, but just as they began to see the outline of their vision take shape, Jake caught a glimpse of fear flickering in his father's eyes. There were questions unspoken. The prospect of the rawness they were navigating suddenly felt heavier. "Are we really ready for this?" his father finally voiced, breaking the gentle rhythm of creativity. Jake's heart stuttered. "It's okay to feel scared," he reassured. "Sometimes you have to confront the hardest parts to break through." His father sighed, gazing at the blank canvas dotted with vibrant colors, a hesitant hope beginning to emerge. "What if we open a floodgate? Then we deal with it together," Jake replied, his voice steady. "If it gets tough, we just take a step back and breathe. We're in this as a team. We're not alone anymore." He reached out, placing a steady hand on his father's shoulder, grounding both of them in that moment of clarity. "All right," his father said, and Jake could sense the little tremor of acceptance. "Let us do this, then." As they dipped their brushes into hues that intertwined with their emotions, the mural began to bloom. But as they painted the first strokes, Jake couldn't shake the thought that behind every brushstroke lay not just memories, but secrets waiting to surface. Could they truly face everything this mural would unearth? As fear and hope coalesced in the space between them, they were about to unlock doors that may lead to revelations, and every secret would demand its share of light. What would they find as they carefully plastered layers of their truth onto that canvas? The days passed, each brushstroke deeper than the last, each layer of paint unveiling not just colors, but emotions that had long been buried. Jake and his father, side by side, found themselves emulating the same trust they once shared. Laughter punctuated moments of silence as they painted scenes filled with memories, those times spent fishing at the lake, family reunions under the setting sun, and cherished moments with Jake's mother, alive in vivid colors. Their new mural reflected not just their personal journey, but also the bittersweet heart of the community, a connection blooming from shared stories. Each stroke was laden with hope, yet the deeper they dug, the more shadows seemed to loom. One evening, while Jake mixed vibrant greens for the underbrush of the mural, his father paused, a pained expression crossing his face. "Jake," he began hesitantly, eyes downcast. The weight in his voice hung heavy in the air. "What if doing this brings back memories that we can't bear?" The question cracked open the dam of Jake's own fears, and it sent a chill down his spine. "What if it does?" Jake replied softly, catching his father's gaze. "But we're here together. We can support each other. Unmasking pain doesn't always mean losing control." He placed his hand confidently on his father's, feeling warmth radiate between them. "I've been so scared of feeling that pain again," his father admitted, voice trembling. "I didn't know how to face you after Mom." The raw honesty of the moment echoed like a thunderclap in the quiet room. Jake squeezed his father's hand tighter. "I know that darkness can feel overwhelming," he whispered, "but there's light too. It's time to let both exist." The air around them shimmered with unspoken words, with unhealed wounds. They took a deep breath together. "Let us face it," Jake urged, drawing strength from the connection blossoming before him. We can talk about her. We can laugh. It's okay to cry. We've let this pain silence us long enough. His father nodded, but Jake noted the fear still flickering in the corners of his father's eyes. You're right. Let us prologue it, so to say, he joked weakly, a hint of vulnerability breaking the tension. The two resumed painting side by side, but something felt different now, lighter. They began to add textures, colors melding into one fluid image of life, loss, and vibrant continuity. It felt as though every stroke was a step toward breaking down the walls built by grief. As they painted, memories flowed. Laughs erupted over silly moments captured in color. The mural became their piece of history, and each new layer acted like buoyancy for the hearts held beneath the surface. One afternoon, while adding shadows to the mural's sunset, Jake found his father staring intently at a faded photograph that lay on the table, one he often hesitated to touch. It was of them three: Jake, his mother, and his father at the lake, sun setting behind them like a promise. Something shifted in his father, a veil began to lift. "I miss her," he said, voice cracking. In that instant, Jake understood they were finally touching the rawest part of their grief. It was cathartic, almost sacred, as they shared a flood of tears that mingled with laughter and memories. They took turns reminiscing about her way of brightening the most ordinary of days. As the mural grew, so did their bond. With each conversation uncovered, shadows were forced into the light, slowly extinguishing fears that had long festered. The once quiet home felt like it was filling back up with love, light, and laughter. Finally, the day of the unveiling arrived. The community center buzzed with excitement, a warmth enveloping the atmosphere. People gathered, many with smiles and anticipation in their eyes. They had all chipped in, helped in one way or another, but now, it was time to showcase the heart of their collective stories. Jake's heart thundered in his chest as he stood with his father, both equally nervous yet filled with hope. "We can do this," he whispered. They adjusted their paint-splattered clothes, ready to share not just a mural but the love woven into its creation. As the curtain lifted, the vibrant colors, memories, and stories exploded into view, an intricate mural depicting laughter, resilience, and healing. Gasps filled the room, and tears glistened in eyes that spoke of understanding and shared experiences. The sun sank low as the crowd erupted into applause, their faces brightening. People came forward, offering words of encouragement and sharing their own stories, resonating joyfully with the hues brought to life upon that canvas. Jake's heart soared. He was proud, but even prouder that they had reconnected through heartbreak and hope. "Thank you for believing in us," Jake's father said quietly, taking a deep breath, savoring the moment, basking in its warmth. But then, Jake was pulled into a moment of quiet realization. "This isn't just the end, Dad. It's the beginning." "Yes," his father agreed, his voice steady, the gravity of the moment lingering between them like warmth on a cold day. Without looking away, Jake responded, "I want to keep building, creating more moments like this. Together." They shared a smile, one that finally didn't hide behind grief. In that small gesture, a promise was made, and it felt like all those lost moments could now finally breathe, nurtured by new beginnings. The weight of the past had transformed into a guide toward brighter tomorrows. This was their chance, and with their families cemented in history, they would carry love, light, and resilience against the darkness they had faced. They had entered shades of grief but were ready to navigate through colors of life. As Jake stood there, feeling the warmth of his community wrapped around him like a comforting blanket, he knew this was truly the moment of transformation. They could choose joy, choose connection, and choose love. There came a time when lingering doubts faded, and Jake's heart silently rejoiced because now it felt like home. Now, please, if you want to keep feeling this warmth, this joy, this connection in your life, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help our stories shine further. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending. Let us celebrate this journey together. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Their lives can be impacted too. Thank you for being part of this beautiful community.